Hello everyone, welcome back to Sunbest Studios. My name's Matt, and today I'm going to be talking about the Bilmuri Kind of Hard World Tour. So I went to go and see them last night at the O2 Academy in Birmingham, and before we get into it, my God, it was hot in that academy. I think driving into Birmingham, it was about 35 Celsius. And when you got into the O2 Academy, I was really hoping that there was going to be air conditioning and we'd get some respite from that. There wasn't. It was just as warm in there, if not hotter, than it was outside. It was so unbearably warm. It was like going to Florida in the middle of summer and watching a gig outside in that. You know, it was actually on the borderline of being unbearable. The only respite that we got was you could obviously get free water from the bar, and every now and again somebody would come and stand near you, or one of our friends turned up and met with us for a bit, who had one of those like handheld electrical fans. When you got a little bit of a breeze off that, my God, that was glorious. But other than that, it was a very hot, very sweaty gig. I think for the last two songs, I had sweat in my eyes and basically just had to stand and listen to them perform rather than see anything. I've never been to a gig that hot in all my life. So fair play to everybody who got through it. There were a couple of people who fainted. So well done to the paramedics as well, who kind of got into the crowd and helped everyone out. The first band on was a band called Thornhill. Thornhill are a band that's popped up on my Spotify a couple of times now. I can't say I've really gone out my way to listen to them specifically, but my dog is barking. But from what I heard of them, very, very solid band. Couple of thoughts. The drum sound was a bit odd to me. It sounded like the kicks and the toms were mic'd and were coming through the sort of PA system, but it sounded like the snare wasn't. It sounded like the snare was just the snare of sound that was just being projected in the room, which made for quite a loose sound. So it was a very interesting drum sound. So that was catching my ear. And then the other thing was that the mix seemed a bit odd to me. The bass and the guitar tones were quite low as well, so everything was getting a bit muddied in that sort of bottom end. And what that meant was that the vocals weren't then high enough to really like cut through a lot of that. So a lot of the time throughout most of the songs, it was quite hard to understand the vocalist and pick up on the lyrics of the songs. But the frontman's screams were good. He had a couple of ones that were very sort of knock loose-esque. So overall, I thought they were pretty solid. With a better mix, I think it would have probably been a little bit better. But yeah, overall, I think I need to go away and listen to their music a bit more. But from what I heard, I liked it. I think the other thing to maybe talk about briefly is, when did Deftones become like the North Star of like rock and metal music in general? Like everyone seems to be aiming for the sound of Deftones currently, which is cool. I'll be honest, I never really got into Deftones. I've tried to listen to White Pony multiple times. It's fine. It's fine. But I wouldn't say it's the sound that every single band in the scene now should be aiming for, like it seems to be anyway. So they were on first, and then after them, we were straight into Bilmuri. This was so much fun. This was a lot of fun. This was one of those nights where it feels a bit magical, and I think Bring Me the Horizon had this when they did the Suicide Season tour. I think A Day to Remember had it when they were touring kind of What Separates Me From You. And they'd, had the success of Homesick and were growing quite quickly there. And I think Don Broco had it around Technology as well. There's a moment in certain bands where you're like, you've got it. Like, you're onto a winning formula here, and I'm happy that I'm seeing you in this venue, because I don't think you're going to be playing these cap venues for much longer. I think you're on a path to bigger and better things. Last night had that magic in it. The band came out and they just looked like they were having so much fun on stage. And, even though it was hot in there, even though it was, a bit irritable to be in a crowd, that fun just connects with the audience, and we all just have a great time because of it. There were moments where is it Johnny, the front man, and Gabby, the saxophonist, were doing sort of like a little hand slap routine that was very High School Musical-esque, but also kind of worked. I think because they are just a mashup of different styles, different genres, you know, kind of sitting in that sort of rock, pop punk, slightly metalcore, slightly A Day to Remember-esque kind of space, they can pull into different genres. So they've got is it Crank? They've got a song called "Cranking My Hog," which is very Post Malone, but you put that in with the newer stuff, which is more metalcore in its sound, and it doesn't feel too different. It feels like it does work together. Johnny was the front man, and one of the things that I really liked about this was, especially when you've got somebody who the project is them, basically. They're a solo act, but they bring in session musicians to tour. Usually, a lot of the time what happens is that the session musicians are told to stand back, be completely characterless, because the spotlight has to be on the main person. What I really liked about this was that Johnny was more than happy to take that step back and let Gabby have a moment, let the guitarist have a moment. They had a cowboy who was playing the keyboard, who then stands up and plays the banjo. Like, everyone was allowed to be themselves on stage, and it felt as if you are watching a full cohesive band and not just, you know, one person's solo project. And I think that just elevated the whole experience because of that, really. I think the other thing to mention is that I don't think I've ever seen a bubble machine at a rock and metal gig before. So that was a new one. But again, just fun and fit the theme of the evening. Of it was a great night, big tunes. And even though we were all hot, even though we were all sweaty, everyone walked out of that venue with a massive smile on the face and thought, this band's on the path to bigger and better things, really. One other thing to mention, if you've watched my download review video, one of the things that came up in that video a lot was crowd stoppages. There was an incident last night where halfway through a song, something happened in the crowd, and people are waving to the band to try and get them to stop. If you've watched that download review, you'll know that unless it's a serious medical emergency and somebody needs urgent medical attention, it was grating on me how much download sets were getting stopped. I thought the security in the band last night nailed it. I thought they got it perfectly spot on. The security down the front was immediately up with a torch on what was going on. Security on the balcony had a torch, immediately what was going on. Johnny saw it and was like, security, can we get somebody out to there? Whilst playing, carried on playing the song. And by the time that they got to the end of that song, where they could have paused and could have stopped, that person had got out of the crowd and was safe. Perfect. Handled it perfectly. And that's what I'd have liked to have seen more of at Download, rather than bands being told, stop the set entirely. You know, again, go back and watch that video. I've kind of explained myself and my standpoint on that. But yeah, well done to the security team, well done to Bilmuri, and well done to their tour manager, because I thought they handled that perfectly. So overall then, Bilmuri absolutely smashed it. They've got great tunes. They've got big sing-along choruses. And you just think, if you keep writing music and songs like this, another album, 2 albums, they'll be able to sell arenas easy. It won't be an issue at all. And it's really cool to see bands on that path. Their path really mirrors A Day to Remember for me. You know, I think when they get to that arena level, they'll have a really strong fan base that will be able to sell out arenas all over the world. Not a problem. So really, really good show. Really enjoyed it. And excited to see what Bilmuri go on to do next. Loads more to come on the channel, so please stay tuned. If you're liking this stuff as well and you want to like and subscribe, please feel free to do so. All of that stuff kind of helps this grow as I start out by doing this. But yeah, thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.